Welcome back in, everyone. Snapping around. Boys, the Four Nations rosters are being announced tomorrow. We're going to get to our rosters here later in the episode. We're going to start, though, with the Avalanche. And just for anyone that's new to this podcast, I know we kind of like to touch on all the teams in the league and just any general hockey news, but to our heart, all three of us are Avalanche fans, have been since late 90s, a little early 2000s for Trav. He's a bit younger. But no, we're going to start with the Avs. And guys, I mean, Justin, you have the tonight's game on live right now with Colorado and Buffalo, and it's not looking good. And it's one of those years right now in Colorado where you just feel a major shakeup is going to be needed. They've already traded a Noonan for Scott Wedgwood. And I guess that's where I kind of want to start is like, what kind of shakeup are we going to be looking at for the Avs? Like, we'll get into some mock trades that we might want them to make with teams here shortly too. But like, how deep does a shakeup have to go here for this roster?
This one's tough because how injured they've been so far this year, but the efforts that they're kind of putting in, a lot of them aren't really up to par and what we're used to seeing with this core group. I find, injuries aside, they're not really getting any saves when they need them. It does kind of feel like the vibes are off with this team too. Like, I don't know what they're missing, but they're missing something. They just don't really seem like the team that we're used to watching the last few years. So, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a massive shakeup or just some sort of like, more milder one. But I think something's kind of got to give here. Eventually, lose tonight, you're 13-13. That's about as kind of mid as it gets through 26 games.
They just really lack an identity that they've held for the last half decade. Like it's not present this year. And just to kind of add onto the whole shakeup thing, like, I mean, obviously the contract talks are sort of underway for Rantanen, but I mean, at what point do you, I don't know, like, I hate to say it, I love Rantanen, right? I want him to be an Av forever, but yeah, I mean, yeah, right now this team is, I don't even know what this team is right now. It's they have all the elements that they're known to have still, like, the speed and the high skill, but there's just absolutely no team game to it. Like, it's just like, we obviously, like, McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar have all got off to great starts this year, but essentially it doesn't really mean anything based on where the Avs are at.
It's very much hockey's a team sport, and it's showing because you said it, Trav. The three big dogs in Colorado have done their part, and I like your point of identity and like how pieces are there of what they truly are as a team, and that's high skill, high speed, run gun style. The issue is right now, though, too, that you're almost having guys lower in the lineup who are trying to emulate what McKinnon and Makar do just on the regular, and those guys aren't skilled enough to do it. Like, it just seems there needs to be some type of, you need like LOC to just step up as a bottom sixer and say, okay, enough's enough. We let the big dogs do what they do because that's what they get paid to do. We get paid to just go in a straight line. Doesn't matter if we score every game or not. Our job's just to make the other team not score on us. And that's kind of what they're missing.
On a complete off note, just to any of our regular viewers that missed me last week, hello, I'm back. I didn't get any prettier, but I'm back.
Yeah.
That's a complete separate note, but
I
I was quite literally I felt like I was on my deathbed last week, and I think there was actually a small time frame during the episode where I might have nodded off because I was doing it from bed and I was literally dying. That's why I was not on camera last week.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the Avalanche.
Hey, in fairness, you didn't sound too much worse for wear compared to what you normally sound like. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing,
Yeah,
but
I don't know what way to take that.
But no, I Justin, you just put in our chat here too for the recording 4-0 Buffalo now. Like I mean, we've said it before. We've said it multiple times this season already. Like Georgiev's a good goalie. He's just proven from the playoffs, certain playoff performances, and then so far this season, he's just not a long-term starter. He's a tandem guy, and unfortunately, we talk about it all the time in our group chat. Bednar seems to be a coach that wants to have one goalie to run out there 50, 55, 60 games a season. And right now, the Avs don't have any goalie close to that.
His highs and lows are just astonishing. Like, I've never seen a goalie who, when he's on, like last year in the playoffs, Georgiev was the last reason that we got eliminated. He was playing well enough to get us a cup, in my mind. It was just the way things worked out, losing to Chushkin and amongst a few other things. But he was the last reason that we got knocked out last year. But then, you come into this year, and it's baffling how bad he's played this year. Especially coming off a playoff campaign that was pretty impressive through 2 rounds.
The full complete team defense seems to be completely off from where it is. I think like they're getting enough offense, I find, to win most games. Obviously there's a few games here and there where you're not going to, score, 3 or 4 times, but I feel like there's just a lot of missed assignments in their own zone quite a bit, which is something that they're usually pretty good at getting the puck back, getting the puck out like pretty smoothly, but it seems to be a struggle this year. That is another big takeaway I'm finding watching a lot of these games.
Maybe roll that into like our first trade proposal here, because we were kind of talking in our group chat earlier over the weekend. Like bringing it to the defense is, maybe they do need a shakeup in terms of right now you have Manson and DeHaan as your like stay-at-home defenseman type guys. And then when you look at their offensive guys, like they're on the smaller side. Like Makar, Gerard, Malinsky, and Taze have a little size, but they're not known for playing a heavier game. So it's just one. They need a shakeup on defense and kind of a trade, just kind of a building blocks of a trade I'd suggest in our group chat. There was something with Gerard for a Keandre Miller in New York, who, I don't know, it was last episode or 2 episodes ago, we talked about the Rangers being open for business. So it's just 2 teams that have cup aspirations just needing a roster shakeup. They could be the perfect partners.
I think Gerard is like the only like expendable defenseman on the Avs right now. Like obviously Makar's untouchable. Devon Tays just left, money on the table to re-sign in Colorado. Josh Manson, to add to your point, Brock, is our size on D, like for a smaller D core. And then, I mean, like, guys like DeHaan and Shillington, you're not going to get a lot in return for them. So that, like, yeah, I think Girard is really the only expendable defenseman at the moment.
Or do you sell high on Malinsky right now? Because his, like, how much higher is Malinsky's value going to get?
Well, I know Trav's answer to that, but
Yeah, he strokes Malinsky.
but like, yeah, I like basically everything Trav was saying. I pretty much agree with in terms of like Girard. I just think out of all the guys that are tradable, I mean, besides if you want to trade Malinsky, Girard probably has the most value. I don't really know how much value Manson would have right now. He's been kind of having a down year too, but I can see why teams would covet him. I'm not sure if at that cap, but yeah, and also like how valuable he's been. He's actually been pretty solid most games for the most part. It's just like I said, that defense pairing this year hasn't really been working out for the Avs either. But I like the thought of that trade idea or building something around like that proposal.
That's, yeah, like Gerard's been outside of like maybe Makar, who's just producing offensively. Gerard's been the best defenseman on the Avs. So from that point, it would suck to lose him on that blue line. But again, you're probably selling on the higher side. And I think the Avs, if you're doing a shakeup, you need to target a guy like someone like Miller or Ryan Lindgren out of the Rangers, because those are guys that you could potentially swap with Taze to play them with Makar, kind of cut back on Taze's minutes a little bit, put him in, allow him a little more freedom offensively playing with Manson, and just completely shake it up. Because right now, you're either like your big shakeup in pairings wise is putting Girard and Makar together, and that's just, it works when you're needing offense, but when it's a closer game, it's not something you want to do all the time. I don't know. That's like, so like, let's go through what would a possible trade then be? What would you guys think an acceptable trade? Like, let's build a trade with the Rangers here for start with Girard and then one of their Miller or Lindgren on defense there, and let's, because again they've been open. They could look at moving a Chris Kreider. Like, is it one? Do you look, if you're Colorado? Do you look at swapping Kreider, Drouin, swapping, maybe look to swap a guy like Ross Colton when he comes back?
Yeah, you could almost do like a Miller and Kreider for like Girard, Drouin, Colton. I think you got to throw something else in there. I think if you're New York, that's a little heavy on the Avs end, but
So then building on that, Trav. So you go, if you're Colorado, you're sending Girard, Drouin, Colton, and let's say one of their younger prospects that might just need a change of scenery at times too. A guy like either Foodie or Olausen.
yeah,
And maybe like a
Olausen, and then you get
like a mid-round draft pick, and you
get
get back
like a third, and like
no, I'm not even looking to get back a third. I was going to go with Miller, Kreider, and a younger guy like maybe a Brendan Ottman. Because the way Will Cooley's playing, Ottman's starting to maybe have to really press for his time. So it's maybe one sending Kreider, Ottman, and Miller for that package from Colorado.
Yeah. Or just throw Shesterkin and Georgiev in there too. Why not?
Isn't that how we got started on the whole?
It is. That's why
trade?
I went there.
That was me. That was my trade.
Yeah.
Brandon for Shesterkin.
That was
straight
the JC
up
special right there. The be a GM JC mode.
Yeah.
Well, hey, like both those guys looking for new deals. Obviously, I don't think Shesterkin would ever get traded from New York, but I mean, if things really broke down with them and whatever, I don't know. Like, I mean, New York would want a superstar back. just, I don't know. It's super far-fetched, but at the same time, like, if both teams are really looking to, like, if they knew they weren't going to sign their guys and the way things are going for both these teams recently, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think it's too far out of the equation to happen if, like, all those things considered happen, but obviously it would be a massive trade. Like, there would be more pieces on each side, but
I think the Avs and Rangers could get together for just a major blockbuster shakeup trade if they wanted to. Like, both teams struggling, should be top contenders in their respective divisions, and probably both looking for that major shakeup. Colorado's obviously not as public about it as the Rangers are, but I could see that happening very easily. Like, if both teams continue to struggle here early in December. I'll throw another one at you guys. Talk about Rantanen. Again, like, I'll listen to Leaf podcasts just because it's entertainment more than anything, because their fans are maniacal and frantic and just outright crazy when the Leafs are anything. Basically, their podcasts are entertainment, but it's Rantanen for Marner. This is one I would think, if you're sending that, because the Avs have the advantage of saying Rantanen is a 100-point guy. Marner's never reached it, regardless of what Leaf fans have you think. Marner's never hit 100 points. If you're that, would you go say Rantanen for Marner, and do you ask for like a Bobby McMahon and maybe a Nick Robertson even too?
Depends. I'm not totally opposed to that, but I'd like to know, like, if that were to be a deal that got done, what's Marner's contract going to look like? Because I would not be okay with just shipping out Rantanen to then pay Marner $14 million. Absolutely not. But if we're paying him under, my number would be probably 10. I could get on board with a trade like that.
The only thing, Marner's not taking anything under 12, probably. Like, yeah. even in Toronto, he's probably not going to take anything under 12.
But I think he's a valuable player. Obviously, he hasn't shown the greatest when, in the big moments, playoffs and whatnot, but he's shown to be that he can kind of play both sides of the puck fairly well. I think the only reason why it intrigues me too is that I think his playing style, like his speed and whatnot, fit really well in with what Colorado does compared to like what Rantanen does. Obviously, Rantanen scores a lot better, a lot more and whatnot, but I think of like a pairing of him and Nate Dogg together. I could see that kind of going off pretty well. But like you said, Brock, I don't know what the other pieces would have to be, because as biased as I am for the Avs, I do think that Toronto would have to throw in something a little more, or like if Colorado has to put in, like, I don't know, like a B or something level prospect, for like Toronto still has to like give up, say, like a McMahon or Robertson or I don't know, like something along those lines. I don't really know how much, like, what they've got for depth that would really fit in well here.
I'd look at Dennis Hildeby in the Marlies, the big fucking 6'6" goaltender, because he has a couple NHL games, not a lot, but he's like right on the cusp of being NHL ready. So if you're not giving up a goalie, you might as well try to get a younger goalie that's in the at least North American game a bit more, while they wait for a guy like Nabokov, who they drafted in June, who I'm not sure on his contract status in the KHL, but they're kind of stuck on hold with him coming over until then, unless he pays out of it. So
I hear that goalie's like pretty sought after in the league from teams.
yeah, I could see him maybe being moved if the Leafs don't want to give up a first round draft pick at the deadline. But speaking of goalies,
apparently the KHL team that Nabokov's with is trying to re-sign him to another deal. That's the last I heard.
so
but I think
the Avs might need to prove that there's a quicker out for him to the NHL then.
I do think, though, with them, they needed to address the goaltending situation here, but I think that's a reason why they were like not so worried about keeping a Noonan around. Just his play over there has been stellar, regardless of what you think of the KHL, caliber game.
Yeah, and for anyone like not familiar, Nabokov's a 21-year-old goalie drafted. Like it's not like he was an 18-year-old that they're looking to rush in over here. He's on the older side already, so and he's lit it up in the KHL as a goaltender.
Playoff MVP.
Yeah, but final little one to discuss here. I'm not going to look at my phone, and I can't remember which one of you guys said it. I think it was you, Justin. The Avs trading for Spencer Knight. What's like, that's one where you're probably risking like either a Rantanen or a Callum Ritchie type. Like, you have to give up something big for him. But what's our thoughts on the Avs swinging for a goalie like Spencer Knight?
I wouldn't give up a Rantanen for him. But I just thought it would really depend on what Florida's at. Like, if there were, I know their contracts end at the same time with Bobrovsky and Knight, but if something happened where they needed some more, depth somewhere, or just like an impact player, like could that be where you send a Gerard or like a Gerard Manson, Malinsky, and then I don't know if you'd toss in, like, say this season keeps going down the rails, like a Colt, like you test them with like a Colton, Drouin, just if Florida's going for another run, like why don't you tempt that? Tell them you got to take Georgiev too; he can be your backup. But I just was watching him play the other day, and I was just thinking, like, he looked really good. Just he's starting to find his game again from being off for so long. Why couldn't the right package kind of be available for him?
And the issue just gets with Florida's cap, though, then too, because they're pretty tight to the cap. So
yeah, I mean, he makes like what, 4.25?
Yeah, so like your Georgiev to swap goalies, your Malinsky,
well, it would be like Gerard probably, right? Like,
yeah, if you're throwing Georgiev and Gerard in, then like that's when the cap comes into play.
Yeah, you'd be taking something back, like to like maybe something they don't want. But like I said, if the season goes off the rails, like you might as well do whatever to kind of just retone for next year. Take back a player with a cap or eat some cap. I don't know, because like Georgiev, this is it for him. So you could eat half of his. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of it because he's young and he's like kind of establishing himself again. But
I just have a tough time kind of like wrapping my head around like anything more than hypothetical, just because I kind of see it as like a Renee Saros situation with Bobrovsky. Like, I think Knight's pretty well ready to go here, but until Bobrovsky's kind of done with his stint or his time, whatever you want to call it, like I think Florida hangs on to him just because they have like he's kind of in their back pocket now, sort of like when Bobrovsky's done here, like Knight's gonna come in and they're not gonna go through a phase of trying to find their next guy, I think. It's interesting to throw around for sure, and you guys already kind of mentioned a few pieces from the Avs that could maybe work out. But that one, and I think I said it in the group chat the other day too. I just have a tough time actually seeing that as anything more than a sort of a random hypothetical, because I think Florida's going to hang on to him for the long run.
Yeah. Final one I just thought of here, then we'll move on to our 4 nation rosters. What speaking of like goalies, what about swapping Georgiev for Blackwood and then maybe throwing in like a Gerard for like Mario for Ferraro or something with San Jose?
Throw Celebrini in there too. Off topic, but Celebrini has looked phenomenal the last month.
Oh, since he got back healthy from his season opening injury, like
I've been seeing a lot of clips of him in like practice and stuff. Just the way he moves is incredible for his age.
Yeah. And the fact he's like one of the top guys in terms of board battle puck wins.
Yeah.
In across the league. Like it's not just for San Jose, it's across the league.
Yeah.
But
to your point, Brock, I'm in. I'm kind of just done with this Georgiev experiment. I'm down to just kind of try whatever else at this point. I know Blackwood's had his issues, but I'd like to say this would be a way better, like kind of structured team for him to kind of be on, that we might be able to see his true potential. But like I said earlier in this episode, they've been kind of struggling at that. But I think they need a full crease turnover. And I was down on the Blackwood train when this kind of got brought up like a month ago, I think. And I really haven't jumped off of it yet because the goaltending situation hasn't given me a reason to kind of stay on with it. And yeah, Celebrini is unreal. Like, I tried to watch that kid every time I could last year. He's so dynamic.
Yeah, he's gonna be fun to watch for a long time. Nothing beats the rush of excitement like seeing your team win live. Getting there is easy with Gametime. Thanks to the new Gametime picks, you can easily filter out the fluff and focus on Gametime's super deal, along with their other great and amazing deals. With Seat View, you get to preview your seat before ever buying. Plus, Gametime has the lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation, and job loss protection, because life happens. As mentioned, Gametime Picks helps you curate the deals so that you find the best ticket price to any event, concert, comedy show, or theater event that you're going to. So take the guesswork out and relax about ticket purchases with Gametime. Download the Gametime app or go to gametime.co, that's gametime.co, and create an account. Use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download or visit Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. 4 Nation rosters, they are going to be announced tomorrow. Kind of consolidated what we kind of would agreed upon of a roster for each nation. Start with Canada here. Obviously, like for anyone that doesn't follow insiders as close, the roster's basically been leaked. We've actually hit on a good number of them. Like McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, Marchand, and Point, and Makar were the original 6 named to Team Canada there back whenever they announced that. But kind of filled out the forward roster. You had Barzal, Marner, Stone, Reinhardt, Hagel, Scheifele, Konechny, and Verhaeghe. Then obviously on defense, Taves, Makar, Theodore, Petrangelo, Morrissey, and then Dobson went in. But that's one that's interchangeable at times. Bennington, Thompson, and Hill. For anyone watching on YouTube, you can see our extras on the right-hand side. Let's kind of maybe start there, not so much because we'll get back to the actual roster, but like Justin, you had Bedard making this team along with guys like Ryan or Thomas, and then I know you in the chat you said Lowry's like an interchangeable, just bottom line 13th forward type guy, but like what's your reasoning for having those guys on your roster?
So I'll go through quick. Bedard, I just think he's too good to keep off. I know it's really not showing this year, but like, come on, look at his line mates. Like, look at some of these guys that come into the league that, you know, McDavid had a Draisaitl, McKinnon played with like, you know, a Landeskog or
O'Reilly
or whatever. Like, have you seen who Bedard gets to play with every night in and out? Like, there's going to be some struggles. I just think he's too skilled to kind of leave off a team with this many other skilled guys. And then Lowry, I just thought he would be good to have as the 13th guy to probably, you know, plug him in against the Americans to play kind of those tough minutes against some of their, you know, bigger guys. And PK, he's a pretty good PK and face-off guy. And more or less the same with Thomas. I felt that as like a guy that plays first line minutes, he's someone that could adapt well to a third or fourth line while producing and still kind of playing both sides of the puck really well. That's where kind of my brain was with those three guys.
Yeah. That's kind of what you said with Thomas. That's what I thought with Horvat too. So that's why I had him on my roster. Trav, you had Suzuki, kind of the same thought process there, like a top line guy that could transition to a bottom six guy on a national team.
Yeah, he was just kind of like a sort of a prime candidate, I thought, for like a bottom six role on this team. Like, just thinking of guys that could transition well from a first line role into a fourth line role. I didn't expect them to be anything above the fourth line, but I just thought just the way he plays, and you know, Suzuki's a very smart hockey player too. I thought he would just be able to find a nice little role kind of at the back end of the forward group, who just somebody that really jumped out to me as a depth player, and that's why I had him kind of as like my 13th forward, really.
Yeah. Obviously, the defense, it was pretty obvious 5 of the 6 or 5 of the 7 that were going to be named. So it's kind of just naming the 6th and 7th D. I had Dobson in there. I think Trav, you did too. That's why he's on this roster, like on our original roster here. I had Chychrun as kind of a 7th D, just kind of having a quiet, underrated year in Washington right now. And just a guy that kind of a decent two-way guy all around. Trav, you had Spurgeon.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of a late bloomer for me. Like, I didn't really consider him earlier on this year, but the way that Minnesota's got off to the start, and you know, I just think Spurgeon's been kind of holding down the fort on the back end for Minnesota the last number of years here. The captain of that group, obviously. I just thought he might be able to find sort of a 7th D role onto this team.
Yeah. Justin, you had the most controversial one with Bouchard. Just every Edmonton fan's probably like cheering and singing your graces with that pick, but it was also one, as you've seen on, if anyone was on social, with Bouchard's name out there for this team, what's he going to bring? Because they already have offensive guys. Just what was your reason with kind of Bouchard's an obvious one, but like a guy like Doughty,
Yeah, for the Bouchard one, like I said in the group chat today, I'm like, I don't even know why I put him on there because I just think it's because I saw so many mocks with him on there. And then I'm like, maybe like these people know something I don't, but I should have just went for what I thought because you're right. Like they kind of have two guys to run the power plays. That's basically all he's really like decent for. Like I don't think he's like the greatest of skaters or defensively. So, and then Doughty, I just feel like I thought he was going to be healthier a lot quicker. I didn't really think about the timeline of him coming back because he's not back. I think till the end of this month, like or start of January. But I think
Yeah.
if he was going to be healthier sooner, he probably would have been the seventh D man on this team. I think just because he is still good enough to play and just all of the experience that he brings from being at the Olympics, World Cup, and I think from every interview that I hear that guys know him, he's just kind of like an all team vibes guy. And, that doesn't really get lost, I don't think. So the injury timeline didn't line up to what I was thinking, but I mean, still from like what I'm reading and listening to online, if there's an injury and he's back to being good, that I think he's the guy that gets put on the team.
Yeah, Hockey Canada's if nothing but predictable for taking guys that they're familiar with. But the goalies, Justin, you nailed the goalies on your roster in terms of like what we had because you had all three that the ones submitted here. I went with Decord on mine because there's all that rumor that he was a dual citizenship, and then obviously, what was it, Saturday night, Friedman came out and said no, he doesn't have a Canadian passport, so that shot that one down real quick. But Trav, I'm curious on your Jake Allen pick.
I think I said this kind of near the start of the year, but the goalies for me were largely based off of the numbers leading up to this point. So like for me, like Logan Thompson, the start that he's had of the year, it was an absolute no-brainer. I just thought Allen's put up respectable numbers in New Jersey so far this year. And that's kind of why I picked him. He wasn't going to be he was probably going to be my third string, was where I was kind of leaning towards there. And then I had Aiden L as the other one, who obviously Hill's been kind of floated from the start, and I think he's had respectable numbers with Vegas this year. I just wasn't I don't know, like I know St. Louis isn't really having the greatest year, and really they're not the greatest team on paper either. I'm just not sold on Bennington and the numbers he's posted this year. And that's kind of why I ended up leaving him off my roster.
Yeah, as you did have him off, but kind of let's get into the goalies here quick too with the leaks. Obviously, Bennington and Hill were were two guys that Justin, you kind of confirmed this for us in the group chat, and then Montembeault was the third. Like, I know Montembeault started the season pretty good, but he's been a little bit disastrous since. Not so much on Montembeault's play. What's our thoughts on Thompson not being on this roster because of his stellar play?
I think it's a snub, personally.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Trav. I think with none of these goalies, like really kind of running away with it, I don't know why you don't pick the one that's playing the best at this time. So I feel like this Montembeault one is more of like our third is going to be like more of a younger future goalie that we hope we can use down the road. I think that's the only way I can really put like my mind around picking him over Thompson right now.
Yeah, I guess, but obviously the Bennington one, everyone kind of saw it coming because Armstrong's the GM of Canada, GM of St. Louis. which may have played a factor in kind of the Colton Parayko being possibly on this team based on the leaks. I mean, is this Armstrong going with a seventh defenseman that he has a lot of familiarity with in Parayko? Because I don't think his name was ever floated out there for any of these rosters.
Sure seems that way.
No, but I mean, like looking at his like advanced numbers, he's a very solid defensive D man, like skates fairly well. So I can see why that, like, you know, from the sounds of it, like a him and Sanheim probably get on there, put together, probably, you know, as that like typical third pairing, more like shutdown, can also like log a lot of ice if they need to.
So we're thinking then that we kind of said it today too. Like Taze's start to the year has maybe hurt him a bit. Is he maybe going on and starting as the seventh D then? Like you're starting a Morrissey or a Theodore up with Makar on that top pair.
That one's so tough because like you have like the way that we kind of have it, like, you know, the top four, like it'd be so easy to just put them all together and like Taze, Makar, Theodore, Petrangelo, but just because the familiarities, right? So that one's tough because, like, you know, which one do you sit? Like, I don't know. Do you like probably want a Sanheim Parayko to start? But I don't know. I just don't really see how you break up like a Taze, Makar, and Theodore Petrangelo.
But yeah,
I could see Morrissey with Makar.
Yeah.
But I think you leave Theodore and Petrangelo together for sure.
Yeah, if you're not playing Taze and Makar together, then you can't break up. You can't have six completely just fresh pairs. You gotta kind of have at least one pair that you know has some chemistry working together. So on the forward side, I mean, we hit a good chunk of them. Sam Bennett and Anthony Cirelli were two names that jumped out, and then Justin, you added on Seth Jarvis getting the invite as kind of the 13th, which the more I think about that, that's actually not a bad pick because he could be a dark horse guy to kind of replace some Brad Marchand come the 2026 Winter Olympics. So I like the Jarvis pick, and Cirelli and Bennett right now just, I mean, solid bottom six guys is what they're going to be. So
difficult to play against, like that bottom six, right?
That, like, yeah, like you have Konechny, Stone, Point, Hagel, Cirelli, Bennett. Like, it's not going to be a fun bottom six, and they can put the puck in that too. So
the more I think about it, the bottom six actually excites me just as much as the top six does. Just with the kind of the whim of guys that they got going on there. A lot of penalty killing guys on that bottom six.
that's
just there to kind of make life miserable for everybody else.
That's just it too. Yeah. I mean, obviously everyone knew going in the goaltending was gonna be an issue for Canada, but like, are we kind of in agreement though? Like, even just like putting together a roster like this, like Canada's defense and forward groups still gonna rival like even the States. Like, they got to be favorited. If you take out goaltending and you look at Canada's roster, you'd think favorite right there.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah,
that's it. Like, you know, and like this projected thing that we're talking about, like with Jarvis and all that, that's just like what the TSN guys were saying, like from the rumblings they're hearing. The NHL has been pretty tight-lipped about not spoiling the reveals for tomorrow, but I mean, they've been probably digging around for the last 24 hours since everyone's been notified. That I have a pretty strong feeling that what I've been kind of hearing from those guys is probably spot on.
If the NHL didn't want leaks, then they shouldn't have had teams submit their rosters 48 hours in advance.
Yeah, it's all for TV, right? Just to get the graphics and things like that ready. But
They only need 2 hours for that. If
I know.
so, it's
They're their own
But,
worst enemy.
move on here. So, kind of, we went from kind of said that Canada's forward group would be forward and D, kind of put them in favorites. Probably the all-around team from forwards down to through the goaltending. The U.S. are probably the favorites. This one's a lot easier to kind of like. There's a select group of players that are in that top U.S. category. They don't have quite the depth to choose from like Canada does. Obviously, Kachuk, Eichel, Hughes, Keller, Matthews, Connor, Robertson, Larkin, Boldy, Miller, Thompson, Kachuk, Getzel is what our forward group looked like. Hughes, McAvoy, Slavin, Fox, Werenski, Faber, John Carlson, and then probably the cream of the crop in net with Hellbuck, Ottinger, and Swayman for the U.S. But run through the extras, kind of the same thing here. JC, you had Caulfield as your 13th forward.
Yeah.
I mean,
like game breaker offensively. He has 16 goals this year already. Like, I feel right now that he's playing well enough to make this team kind of maybe regardless of if they're worried about his defensive liabilities. I feel like this is a team looking at it that they have enough guys that they can put out there to kind of shelter that. But like, if you need a goal, like whatever, like between like him, Matthews can kind of, and Connor, whatever, with like the way that they can shoot, it feels like he should probably be a part of these 13. But like I said, from what I've heard, apparently he did not. And apparently Tage Thompson did not either, which I found very shocking.
Yeah, I mean, I did struggle a bit with Thompson in there, but I flip-flopped a lot with guys. I ended up having Tuck in over Getzel just because I thought in a bottom six role, Alex Tuck's a little more versatile. And then I also had Hannafin in over John Carlson. Just, again, a little more of a versatile defenseman. But, Trav, you had Middlestat in on your roster. I mean, he had a hell of a start in October. He's cooled off since, but
Yeah.
you thought he was good enough for the team?
Yeah, I just I don't know, his playmaking ability, and I know he's cooled off lately, but his ability to adapt and play with so many different guys when he is going is what I kind of liked about him. And just to slot him into a bottom six role, I guess kind of appealed to me a little bit, just because like there's so many, like almost all the guys on USA, other than maybe 3 or 4 of them, are interchangeable on where they are, like on this graphic that we're looking at right now, in terms of where they're going to play. So I just thought, like, there are lots of different combinations for Middlestat. I think just his vision and playmaking ability, I guess, was why I ended up including him on this team.
Yeah.
And I had him in over Jason Robertson, which was hard to do, but I guess I'm kind of going off recency bias for Robertson. Like, he's been a bit of a shell of his former self this year. And yeah, I almost kind of wonder if he's maybe missing Joe Pavelski a little bit.
Yeah,
all the chemistry that they've had the last couple of years.
Yeah, that could be so. But I mean, I said it off the top introducing this roster. We're in agreement. This goaltending trio is like hands down, far and away, head and shoulders the best going into this tournament.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like Hellbuck could show up and be like he was in the playoffs last year, and US can still turn to 2 all-star goalies. So what's our thoughts on the USD here, though? Like, because this one, it wasn't so much you're not trying to like so much predict who the six are or who the whole decor is. You're more just who's really going to be that seventh, because I think what we have in the top six is kind of locked in almost, I would say. I mean, you're not really, there's not a lot of US born defense outside of those top six D there that are better than those guys, but you also have a lot of guys that maybe think offense first a little too much. Similar to Canada in a way, I guess, but what's the thoughts?
I don't know. I don't really know who can jump in to that top six right now. If any of the, if like Carlson, if like the way we have it, I don't know if Carlson can. Like right now, I think that is how you'd somewhat start the tourney, and then you kind of just see how it goes. If someone's not performing well, he gets to go in there. But I don't know. Like, did we basically all agreed on the defenseman except for like the seventh, right? And
Yeah.
like, I mean, you know, the three of us kind of all agree on the same six guys. I think that seems like, you know, that's pretty legit.
Yeah. I mean, we have no insight, but it's pretty obvious when you look at picking out of NHL teams who the six best US born defensemen are. So,
Well, that's exactly it. How do you not have those six guys in there?
like, I guess that's maybe the thing where Canada even has that advantage because, yeah, you can argue these six are better than the six that Canada's going to throw out, mostly because of that number six spot. But Canada has the advantage of just saying, like, yeah, our sixth, seventh defensemen are so interchangeable because we have so much guys to pick from. Whereas the US here, Carlson, Hannafin, or once you get past those two in terms of depth defense in the US, you're starting to get a little on the thinner side in terms of world class quality. So their forward group, easily probably the most dangerous in terms of high offensive skill. I think the one thing you're worried about if you're an American fan is who the hell is going to defend a lead for them. Like, yeah, guys are a little defensive minded at times, but outside of like a JT Miller, they don't really have a true like defense stalwart two-way guy like Canada does. So I just wonder, like, if the US get in a tight game, only up a goal, are they going to really be relying on their goaltender to bail them out because their forwards aren't defensively responsible?
Yeah, they just don't. They don't possess the bottom six, you know, make life miserable factor that Canada has in their bottom six.
Yeah, like
They
that.
they got a player or two, but they can't hit you with a line of it.
I mean, they could if you go like Miller with the two Kachucks, but
Well, yeah, but
then you're like mixing matching guys all over. So
yeah,
whereas, yeah, like Canada can throw, really in hindsight, Canada can throw three lines of just shit disturbers if they want. When you think of Crosby, Marchand, and possibly like McKinnon line as a second line, I mean, Marchand's just Marchand, and it's not like Crosby and McKinnon are any fun to play against. So, but I think it's one pretty obvious though going in. The US are probably the favorites for this tournament, just based on from forwards down to goaltender, their overall depth.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, it's obviously going to be interesting seeing how everything plays out when the tournament gets started. And again, we'll figure these out tomorrow, but the 2024-25 NHL season still has the new car smell. And the action is just heating up at Draftkings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at Draftkings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win or a goal score. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $100 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
Go to the Europeans, Sweden. You two literally had like the exact same roster outside of, I think, a defenseman switch. So I'll just run down my two extra forwards. I had Wenberg and Hoglander in there. I think I had them over Backlund and Eklund in the bottom. Just Eklund more just because he's still so young, and Hoglander has a little more of that experience in a third line role, just knowing how to play it. And Wenberg's had a good bounce back season in San Jose too. So, but ultimately our team Sweden roster went with Kempe, Zibanejad, Nylander, Bratt, Pedersen, Forsberg, Raymond, Eriksson, Zetterlund, Elias Lindholm, Backlund, Carlson, and Eklund. The defense: Dahlin, Hedman, Forsling, Ekholm, Erik Karlsson, and then we all had kind of interchangeably Brodin, Hampus Lindholm, and Rasmus Andersson. And in net, we all had Markstrom, Gustafsson, and Allmark, which maybe the second best goalie trio in this tournament. So let's kind of start with the defense here, though, guys. Carlson's already on the team, obviously. Who are we taking as the 5-6 pair? Because we're all kind of in agreement at this point. Carlson's going to be the 7th D just based on his play.
I would say probably for me, since I took Hampus Lindholm, I would say him and Rasmus Andersson would be my 5-6. I would say that the top 4 is exactly as you see it on screen.
Yeah, those were the 4 we all agreed on defense.
I like Brody and Anderson. I think, well, that's because of the 2 guys that I picked, but I feel like Brodin is pretty super underrated for how good he is, especially like kind of defensively shut down. And they do kind of have a few of those, like Forsling and Ekholm do that well too. But I just feel that, with Anderson, he can kind of be like a bit offensive for them if they need to as well. So I just kind of like having a guy that can protect the zone a little bit more than having a bit more of an offensive guy. But that was more my reasoning on Brodin over Lindholm. I think I did have Lindholm in my roster first because I forgot about Ekholm for a minute.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know how I forgot about him. He just completely slipped my mind. But
no, yeah, I had Brodin, Lindholm. I kind of forgot about Anderson at first, but the more I think about it, I think Anderson might get on just because some of these international teams, they get kind of fickle when they want that lefty righty, and you already have an all lefty pair of Forsling, Ekholm. And if Carlson's dropping to your 7th, you probably don't want 5 left-handed defensemen on that blue line, especially with the speed that the other teams are going to come at you with. Having to take that extra second. I mean, we've all played defense growing up in minor hockey. When you're on your offhand, that extra second makes a difference in terms of making a clean play and making a chip off the boards, just an emergency, get the puck out play. So I do think Anderson might make it, and I think I'll stick with more Brodin making it. Just seems to have that steady. He's less up and down in terms of a guy like what Lindholm is. So
I got a fun little question for you. It's just a quick one. If Landeskog was available for this team, who do you take off that forward group?
As is now, Eklund.
Yeah, Eklund. Actually,
But-
I don't know. Maybe Carlson.
Personally, I would take Elias Lindholm off, but that's just me.
I
know
can
he's-
see that.
I know he's a centerman, but he's been underwhelming this
I
year.
can see that. Yeah. I mean, this is
I would
Being
have loved to see Landeskog on this team, to be honest.
oh yeah. He'd be a great fourth liner. I mean, speaking of the forwards though too, in terms of Sweden, just they have a few guys that are gonna jump out as game breakers, but they kind of lack that top to bottom, like a true top 6 talent level that Canada and the US do. Like you have guys in there, but it's also one where we've seen all these guys kind of be streaky. They don't have that consistent forward that the US or Canada do. So it might be tough for Sweden to actually get some scoring overall in this tournament. I think, even though they do have quite a bit of offensive caliber guys in their forward group. So that's obviously Team Sweden. For anyone like watching or listening to, like our rosters, it's pretty funny how it all went because we went from Canada, who had so much extras, to US, and then it just got slowly less and less. Obviously, then I pull up Finland, and it's fucking bigger than the US extra list, I think. But this was one too. I think their bottom 6 is going to be a mishmash of just random guys in the NHL. Because Finland right now, we're saying Lundell, Barkov, Rantanen, Teravainen, Aho, Laine, Lehkonen, Hintz, Halla, Lusterine, Granlund, Marcelli, and Kotkaniemi is what I just put in there. Heiskanen, Lindell, Mikkola, Valimaki, Ristolainen, Yokoharu, and Heinola as the 7th D, and then Saros, UPL, Korpisalo. I don't know about you, Justin, but I completely just blanked on Lankinen being a Finn. Trav had him in. The more I think about it, the more I think he makes more sense over a guy like Korpisalo even.
I did think of him. I just thought Korpisalo is a better option for a third goalie. He's playing better this year. Shocker, he's playing in front of a better team. They're playing behind a better team. Just look at Hallmark too. But actually, I'm very confused by Heinola being on there. He's hasn't played 40 games in the NHL over 6 years, and I question that move by you two a lot.
I didn't have him on, but I did. Like he was kind of my 8th regardless. So then when I saw Trav put him on, have him on as a 7th, I just thought, yeah, we'll throw him in because
I didn't really want to put him there, but I actually didn't realize how thin the Finnish defense gets as you get down the list. And the reason why I put him there over Olli Mata is because Olli Mata has had forever and a day to get good, and he's not good.
Yeah.
So
I just thought too, like
putting Hakanpää on there over Mata too. Like,
yeah.
I thought of that, but he's been injured, and I think he's
back injured.
He's still going to be injured, like throughout this tournament. That's why I didn't.
He might be on Robida Island soon. Actually.
Yeah. I just thought, like, the more I thought about it, like, Heinola just brings an element that a lot of the Finns don't have outside of their top 2, and that's just skating. Like, Mikkola's not the best. Jokiharju's average. Matt and Ristolainen are just something. Like, Valimaki's okay. Like, kind of right there with Jokiharju, too. But, like, yeah, it's just gives you that skating, but yeah, Trav, you said it. Once you get past Heiskanen and Lindell, it's pretty scary.
I actually didn't realize how much it thinned out until I went to, do our roster predictions. Like, this is far and away the worst decor out of the forward teams.
Oh, easy.
By a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, very easily.
I think their forward core is going to be tough to play against, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, what do they have outside of Rantanen? And if Line A is healthy enough to, like, truly make it?
He's making it. He's on the team.
Rantanen and Line A are, like, the only true offensive, like, all offensive guys. Everyone else is, like, just a pain in the ass two-way forward.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, like, anyone watching, you can see the extras. Armia, Kakko, Tolvanen, Kapanen were all our extra picks. I think Finland's just going to be that pain in the ass team that nothing's going to come easy against them, regardless of what their defense looks like. But I mean, that's kind of what we predicted our Finland roster would look like. Obviously, all these are coming out tomorrow. The Sweden-Finland roster is coming out at 2:30. Canada-US going to be live at 6:30. We'll figure out how close most of our roster is. Kind of final thing here, boys. We're running longer, but we'll wrap up here shortly. Last thing. US or Canada is the favorites going in.
Who do I think's the favorites?
Yeah.
US.
I'll go Canada, but it's close.
In a short tournament, I want to say Canada, just because I think in a short tournament, a guy like Bennington can just find that 2-week magic. And that's all Canada really needs.
I don't think the Americans are that much, if better. I just think they're perceived as the favorites.
That's fair.
I don't know if, I would honestly just flip a coin. Like you said, they're pretty dangerous top to bottom. The goaltending is, I think, the thing that kind of pushes it over the edge. But like you said, it's a short tournament. You're not looking at a 20-game playoffs where you need guy to be on 80% of that time. You need 4 or 5 games.
Yep, that's all you need. So, and with that thought, we all know Finland's going to win it now. So, just because. But
no, that'd be crazy. But yeah. I wish it was like a bigger tourney though. Like
Finland, Russia gold medal game.
They should. The Russians should be in here. Czech should be in here.
Russia and Czech.
Again, this
should be in.
It's an event that
NHLPA event.
They want to keep it with countries that can fill a roster with just NHL players. Russia could probably maybe do that. I don't know about their defense, but
I think they could.
That's why it's just the 4. They are building it to be more of a bigger World Cup style and alternate like every 4 years, just every 2 years off of the Winter Olympics. So we'll see what comes of that. We'll see how the tournament goes. Rosters go live tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure to tune in next week, and we'll stick with some international talk and touch on the World Junior training camp roster that got released the other day. So it's the international time of year for especially Canadians. It's the best time of year. Not Christmas. World Juniors are just around the corner. So thanks for tuning in and have happy holidays.